All right, let's dive right into the foggy, gaslit streets of Victorian London and unmask one of the greatest monsters in all of literature. But here's the thing. This isn't just a simple monster story. It's a really terrifying look at the darkness that can hide behind a perfectly respectable face. And honestly, it's a major critique of a society that demanded absolute perfection from everyone.
So this is our first introduction to the creature at the heart of the story. He's this guy who just radiates wrongness, you know? He inspires this instant hatred in people, a walking, talking embodiment of pure malice that people can't even seem to properly describe.
So the big questions are, who is this monstrous guy, Hyde? And how on earth does he have such a hold over the incredibly well-respected Dr. Jekyll? To figure this out, we're going to do exactly what the characters in the book do. We're going to follow the clues piece by piece, right alongside the story's investigator. And our guide through this whole mess is the very proper, very respectable lawyer, Mr. Gabriel John Utterson. Now, this is a man who values reason, logic, and reputation above everything else, which, as you'll see, makes him the absolute perfect witness for the chaos that's about to be unleashed. Yeah, you can basically think of Utterson as our detective here. He's a guy who lives by facts, by what makes sense. But he's about to stumble onto a trail of evidence that's going to drag him deep into a mystery that completely shatters every single rule of nature and logic he holds dear. Okay, so check out how this whole thing escalates. I mean, it's wild. It starts with this really bizarre story about a trampled girl and a check. Okay, weird. But then Utterson finds this insane will, where his friend Jekyll leaves everything to this Hyde character. And then, bam! A year later, a brutal public murder, and the weapon is a cane that Utterson himself gave to Jekyll. For a logical guy like Utterson, none of this is adding up. And then, the investigation just hits a brick wall. Utterson can't figure it out. Jekyll has become a total recluse, and Hyde has just vanished. The whole thing's a dead end, until Jekyll's panicked butler shows up, completely convinced that something terrible has happened inside his master's lab. And this is where everything takes a hard left turn. They break down the laboratory door, but the answer isn't in some clue they find. It's in 2 letters, 2 confessions. You see, the mystery was never a whodunit, it was a what is it? And the truth is about to come straight from the men who saw the impossible with their own eyes. So in his letter, Jekyll basically confesses his lifelong obsession. Living in that super strict Victorian society, he felt totally crushed by the pressure to be perfect all the time, to hide every single flaw. He came to believe that every person isn't just one being, but 2, a good self and an evil self, constantly at war with each other. And this process, well, it's pure scientific horror. Jekyll, using chemistry, literally found a way to give his dark side its own body, its own life. He didn't summon some demon from the outside world. Nope. He just built a door and let his own inner demon out to go and play. So now that we know the shocking what of the story, we can finally get to the really tragic part, the why. Why would a brilliant, respected man like Dr. Henry Jekyll ever do something like this? This idea right here is the absolute engine of the entire story. The author, Robert Louis Stevenson, is asking this huge question through Jekyll's experiment. Are you just one single personality? Or are you a constant battleground between the person you show to the world and the one you keep hidden away? This slide really breaks it down. See, Jekyll wasn't some saint. He was a mix of good and bad, you know, like all of us. He just got sick and tired of having to pretend to be perfect. So he created Hyde as his own personal get-out-of-jail-free card. It was a way for him to indulge his absolute darkest impulses without damaging the pristine reputation of Dr. Jekyll. Jekyll truly believed he could split himself in 2, living as 2 completely separate people. But that right there, that was his fatal error. He wasn't 2 different men. He was one man who slowly and horribly lost the fight for control to his own worst half. So, okay, this is a horror story from the 1800s. Why are we still talking about it? Why does it feel so relevant? Well, because Jekyll's whole struggle, dealing with social pressure, trying to figure out who you really are, that's a battle we all face, especially when you're navigating something like high school. It's because this is about so much more than some magic potion. It's a story about the masks we all wear, right? Whether that's the reputation of a Victorian gentleman or, a perfectly curated Instagram feed. It's about that constant fight between the person we're supposed to be and the person we are when nobody's watching.
So what's the big takeaway here? I think this story is a huge warning. Trying to live a double life is a really dangerous game. Pushing parts of yourself down and pretending they don't exist doesn't make them go away. In fact, it can just make them angrier and stronger. And at the end of the day, you can't just blame Hyde. You are responsible for your whole self, the good and the bad.
And that's a pretty haunting question to end on, isn't it? The book suggests that this struggle, this monster, is inside every single one of us. It's a timeless warning about the darkness we can unleash if we're not honest with ourselves. Something to think about.